Hey folks, Labor here once again. Welcome back to another video. Hope you enjoyed my New Year's video, me kind of dancing and singing a little bit. And yeah, well, welcome to 2022, y'all. Happy New Year if y'all didn't even watch the video. But anyway, Happy New Year to all y'all, since we're getting started off from 2022 now. Now, as y'all know, I've been on my superhero marathon for my channel. If you watched last year in 2021, when I plan to start these videos off, hopefully you guys can see me. I've been on my Superman marathon. I've reviewed live-action Superman films, the animated Superman films. Now I'm on TV shows for Superman. So, and I'm also far from getting finished. But anyway, I am finishing up with Smallville. Crap, I moved my phone over there. But anyway, I'll be right back. Sorry, I was so excited I forgot, y'all. Glad to come back and do the videos. So. Alright. Yeah, anyway, got my phone board. Okay. So anyway, this time I'm giving my thoughts on the episodes of Smallville, Season 9. Let me fix the camera here a little bit. Webcam good? Sorry, I just want y'all to see me. Sorry for the brightness. Hopefully it's okay. Y'all can see and hear me. I know the audio sucks. I'm sorry. But Smallville Season 9. Cover. This is Zod and Clark fighting at the end of the season. Yep. A picture of Clark in his blur suit, and of Clark and Lois in the future, which I'll talk about that later. And of course the disc. I show a little more of the artwork. But Smallville Season 9. Give my quick thoughts. Start off with that is. I really enjoyed this season, yeah. I personally would say I like Season 8 more than this one, and probably even Season 10. I don't know when I get there, but I will say I like this more than Season 3, Season 4, and especially Season 7. Do I like it more than Season 6? Yeah, probably, to be honest. So I would say right now the most season that I've enjoyed the most would be Season 1, Season 2, Season 5, Season 8 and Season 9 so far. Yeah. But really good season. Really enjoyed this season. I'm going to get more into it. So let's get into my favorite episode of Smallville Season 9. Talk about it a little bit. This season ran from, I think, 2009 2010. Yes. Pretty much at the end of Season 8, Aaron Ashmore, who played Jimmy Olsen, Sam Ryder, who played Davis Bloom, a.k.a. Doomsday, they both departed the series and left the show after the characters, of course, were killed off at the end of Season 8. But you have Tom Bowling, Allison Mack, Eric Durrance, Cassie Freeman, Justin Harlan, Callum Blue, who was new to the cast as Zod, Major Zod, as he called here. Yeah. The cool thing is, when they talk about Zod himself, on this DVD called Kneel Before Zod, The Evolution of a Classic Evil Character, you do have an interview of, what's his name? Terrence Stamp, yeah, Terrence Stamp, who also does voice Terrell in this series of Smallville. But anyway, Terrence Stamp, he played General Zod in the original Christopher Reeve films, Superman the Movie and Superman 2, and the Richard Donner cut. So, he talks about how he got the role of Zod as well, which is cool to listen to. This season premiere got in 2.58 million viewers and outperformed any other show in the fight. Well, I believe it. Yeah. From Episode Justice, 2 episodes featuring the Justice Society of America. That's what we get here in the season. We also get Amanda Waller and Checkmate in this season. Pretty much, I would say what the Season 9 is about is that this season of Smallville, Clark takes his superhero persona into obsessive territory when he leaves behind those he cares for so that he can focus solely on Jor-El's training. In order to accomplish this, Clark wears a new costume that supports his family crust. That this is the new costume that he's fully become, not the Red Blur, but the Blur. And he's saving people and, being a hero, but nobody can see it. You can't show nobody's face. And I thought this was a really good time for this show to actually do this. So, The theme of the season is about Clark finally embracing his alien heritage. while also being his darkest hour thus far. As a result, Clark's relationship with Chloe not reversed over this season. Also, he gets closer with Lois Lane this season. You have the Candorians who have, thanks to Tess opening the orb, brings the Candorians here, and Clark in this season, he's trying to be friends with them, but Zod, he's trying to get them to have lives here on Earth, but Zod has other plans. Let's say he wants to take over the Earth and basically make Krypton, kind of rebuild Krypton on Earth. And Clark, of course, cannot allow him to do that, so at least causing what you saw the fight when I showed you there, a war between the two. So I'm going to go ahead and give a list of my favorite episodes of Smallville Season 9, so just sit back, relax, and enjoy. This video might be long, y'all, I'm sorry, but trust me, I don't want to do it that long. But I like to go in depth in these videos, in my videos usually. So anyway, here we go. Alright, this webcam just bugs me. Sorry guys if y'all can't see me well. Alright, let's go ahead and get to my favorite episodes of Smallville Season 9. I'm 6 minutes in, I haven't even done that yet. Alright, my favorite episodes, I give you my favorites and okay episodes. Starting with favorites, first one is Savior. Now this is the pilot episode where Lois, after this season takes place, starts off 3 weeks after Season 8. After Clark defeated Doomsday, after Damus Bloom died and Jimmy Olsen died. This time all the heroes, including Green Arrow, Black Canary, they have all pretty much left. Lois returns from the future. She has no memory though. She ends up on this train, and this Kryptonian woman fights her, basically tries to kill her, and Lois fights with her a bit. The train gets into a wreck though eventually because of the fight. Clark is able to catch the fight. He's like, Lois? And you see him talking to Jarrell, and he's focusing on his training. He's got maps, and Jarrell's like, you're not focused. It's like, Kelly, you're not focused. It's like, well, I'm trying to focus more on my training, so I'm trying to be more of a, realize my alien heritage. He's like, Kelly, the point of emotions is learning to deal with them, not to avoid them. He's telling Clark, you got to learn to deal with emotions. That's part of life. Is what he's telling them. Chloe, who is now owning the Watchtower, yeah, she still watches up there and still is pretty much on her own. You have Dr. Mill Hamilton who comes up there, to talk to her. And pretty much in this video, you have Major Zod, his generals who pretty much turn on him. They're trying to talk to Zod, they're Kryptonians and they don't have their superpowers. They're trying to ask, Zod, Major, not General Zod, which I'm like, really? I was disappointed. I'm like, I still before General Zod. But, they say, Major, why don't we have our powers yet? And they think that they can't trust us, so you question my judgment. And, one of them knocked Zod out and they put him in jail. They put him in a room with Tess, and he kind of, it says he's like, I'm Zod. But at the end of the episode, Zod is able to stand up and say, look, I will find out what happened to our powers. I will protect you, my brothers and sisters. I will die in the quest trying to find our powers. And they believe Zod, so they kind of, kneel before Zod. And I was like, no, kneel before Zod. So they all his worshippers, followers, trust him again. And Zod promises them that he will find out how they're going to be able to get their powers. And Tess pretty much said that she brought them here. She looks with a smirk on her face because she thinks that Zod and his Candorians, Kryptonians, whatever, will be able to save the Earth. That's why she released them, so that they can save the Earth. But as you kind of find out, though, it's not really the case. Lois, I forgot to mention, though, after being in the hospital, being attacked, she's been called a blur. It's Clark, She tells him, we're sorry that I haven't been calling after these 3 weeks. I'm sorry that I'm late on the call. And she's upset, about it. Anyway, the Candorian woman is still searching for Lois. Lois is eventually able to meet up with Oliver Queen. Oliver, who is, in a fight club. we're part of the Legal Fight Club. Clark, by the way, I forgot to mention as the lawyer, when he's saving people, he's leaving the symbol, the Superman symbol, but it's black, and he's using his heat vision to let people know he's saving them. Lois shows up and tells Oliver, I need to help you. And this woman shows up, but the lawyer shows up, Clark shows up, and he takes the woman on a fight, which I thought was actually a pretty cool fight. She's got like a sword, Clark is able to fight her, but she's able to get Wood Kryptonite out, and her and Clark fight, and eventually she, by accident, gets killed. He doesn't kill her, she's killed by accident. Lois talks to Oliver about how he's been doing. Now, Oliver in this season is really messed up. After he pretty much murdered Lex, or killed him in season 8, and after Jimmy died, after after him and Clark's fall out, it kind of just messed Oliver up. So Oliver's been drinking a lot. I mean, the guy's just been down and dirty, and he's just not been Green Arrow for these 3 weeks. He's just given up being a superhero, basically. Doesn't want to do it anymore. This woman also tells Clark, though, I go to work, that he's the destruction of Earth. And at the end of the episode, though, Lois, she has these visions of the future, which we'll get more into the season of Earth 3, which they're the vision of Chloe dying, of General Zod, and the Red Sun taking over, which was on Krypton, and her and Clark making love, basically. But she can't sleep because of it. But overall, Saber was a good episode in my opinion. I think at the end of the episode, or the next one, I'm not sure, Oliver pretty much burns his Green Arrow suit. I don't think it was in this episode, but overall, Saber was a good episode to start this season. I just think, sometimes, heroes fall apart, Even Clark kind of fell apart, even though he has his powers, but if him is still a human, and you see with Oliver in this episode, the guy's just falling apart in the start of the season. But anyway, the next episode is Metallo. Yes. I forget? Yeah, Metallo. We did have John Corbin, who was Metallo, by the way. Metallo pretty much is the nemesis of Superman, he's a machine, but he has, I've explained about him before in the Superman anime series when I talked about it in season 1, by the way, of volume 1 for that show. But Metallo, if y'all don't know, he's a robot, he's a machine, and he has a kryptonite heart that kind of flashes out, and then he's able to take on Superman in a fight. But John Corbin, he's talking to Lois in that Savior. He's very flirty with her a little bit. He kind of takes Clark's seat for a little bit in the Daily Planet because Clark's not been in the Daily Planet for 3 weeks. He kisses Lois as a distraction, and Lois kicks him in the leg. At the beginning of the episode, John Corbin is talking to Lois, and you find out that his sister died or something. He blames a blow on it. Without not looking, he gets hit by a truck, and I'm thinking it was Toyman that experimented on him, but he wakes up pretty much like this, as y'all can see in the picture right here. Wakes up like this with a kryptonite heart. He's freaked out. He doesn't know what's happened to him. And he tries to go to the doctor. Dr. Emil Hamilton tries to take care of him, but since he has super strength now, he's able to push the doctors off. And he basically begins to kind of lose his mind. He's like, now that I can do this, now I can take it on the floor. So he's obsessed with finding the Lord and killing him eventually. Clark is able to talk to Lois eventually again as the Blur, but this will eventually put her in danger. Sorry. But the kryptonite is a power source for his body. Without it, he can't live. If they take it out or move it, it'll kill him. Okay, no, it wasn't Torment, it was Zod and his men. But they were only doing it to trying to get their powers. Chloe at the watch table was able to find out information about John Corbin, find out what happened to his sister, and Clark can't really take him on without passing out. So he has to get a lead chip. He tries to talk to John, and Metallo pretty much kidnaps Lois And John, when he sees Clark, the boy, he's like, what gives you the right to interfere in our lives? It's your fault that my sister's dead, and I'm going to kill you for it. He wants revenge. And Clark, in order to take him out, he has to grab this lead plate, because he can't get near him. Even, a few feet of the guy, he starts to pass out, nearly. But he goes to let show, and he's able to stop him eventually. But eventually, Metallo is able to come back up and fight, and using his super strength, and able to push the blow out of the way, able to push Clark out of the way. Until Clark is able to use the lead plate again, and uses like an MPM blast that Clark gave him, and it just gives him a shock, because like a machine, when an MPM blast happens, it affects the chip or their body, and it affects Corbin, and he passes out. I guess pretty much sent to the prison, or sent to the place where Tess keeps an eye on him or whatever. The one thing I was disappointed by in this episode was that John Corbin here plays him, he does a good job. One thing I was disappointed, and I love that he was a Daily Planet reporter, like in the anime series, he was a crook, pretty much a criminal already. But anyway, and I will say that was definitely done better than the anime series. I think Michael McDowell will be my favorite Metallo, but that's just me, that's just my opinion. But I do wish him and Clark would have had a bit of a I swear with Smallville, there's one big issue I have. It's like with Zod, Doomsday, Brainiac even, he doesn't have these, or Metallo, he doesn't, or Bizarro, he doesn't have these big fights with them. I'm expecting these fights to be a little bit more, But you do feel bad for John Corbin and what he's been through. And, he does eventually end up in jail at the end. Chloe decides not to talk to Lois. Chloe decides to return to society eventually in this episode because of Tess finding out Lois's memories. So Clark, I guess, can keep an eye on her. And this is where they eventually start falling in love a bit more. But Metallo was a good episode in my opinion. So. Alright, another favorite of mine is called Echo. This is where Clark gets the ability to hear others' thoughts. And I think it's funny throughout the episode a little bit when he's able to hear Lois's thoughts. And if she calls him hot stuff, but in her mind, basically, because he can read her mind, that she, of course, has the hot for him. And, of course, somewhat throughout Season 8, Clark has grown feelings for her. And he does like Lois, and he uses this opportunity to hook up on a date with her. One of Oliver's facilities were blown up, and I think you find out that it was actually Toyman. Basically, Toyman, who in last season 8's episode, I forgot what Workium, I can't say it right, but anyway, in season 8, Toyman went to Scott, pretty much wanted revenge on Oliver because he fired Oliver fired him or something like that. He did some business with him. Well, he was one of his employees, and of course, Scott was pretty much out of his mind. Winslow was pretty much out of his mind, so Oliver fired him, and he becomes the Toy Man. And Toy Man, what he does is, he builds toys, loves toys, but makes bombs out of them in order to kill people. Oliver is still in a depressing mood, and pretty much Toy Man wants him to confess his sins, basically, by putting Oliver on this plate. Well, first Tess finds him because Oliver, you see him at he's in Mexico, I think he's in Mexico or something like that, but he's in a bar, drinking, he flirts with these girls, and one of the guys says, his wife was like, in Spanish he's being in Mexican, in Spanish he's saying basically to these guys like, who's your wife, the short one or the ugly one? The guy punches him in the face, and he's about to go down with either until Tess shows up, and it's like, Oliver, look, you need to go to this event, I need you to really go, it's important. So you know what, if you're going to get drunk and land a gutter somewhere, just do it later, okay? You need to get your ass to this event. Chopper's off in 20. And Oliver does go by and say, Toy Man calls him, threatening to blow him up. Clark is able to listen to this. Using his, he But Jor-El wants him to learn more about humans. If he's going to save them and save people, he's going to learn more about how people are like. You know, even though he's sitting on this pressure plate, you know, on the podium, and if he moves, he can die. When Clark is able to use his vision to see it, he attacks Toyman, and, you know, he realizes it's not the real Toyman because Toyman really never cowered out or something like that. And Clark is able to use his heat vision on him, and you find out that it's not really Toyman, it's actually a robot of himself. And so at the end of the episode, Oliver says that Oliver just walks back forth, and he could have died. Oliver, pretty much you find out, was willing to even commit suicide, or even willing to kill himself. You know, Clark is like, Oliver, did you know there was a bomb? He's like, I didn't. But him and Oliver kind of talk at the end. He tells me that he's quitting being Green Arrow, all the guilt he fills up, you know. And I think in this episode, it might be this episode where he actually burns his Green Arrow suit. Yeah, just takes his Green Arrow jacket and burns it. But eventually the real Toyman is arrested. And well, I forgot to mention Clark can read Lois's mind. He tries to ask her date to a monster truck rally, but he never shows up. Instead, Lois shows up. Oh, she looks, Erica Durance is very gorgeous. She's still a gorgeous woman, I ain't gonna lie. Still beautiful. She shows up in a monster truck, which I thought was funny. And she's upset at Clark for just kind of ditching them on their date. At the end of the episode, Tess comes to Toyman. She shoots him in the leg and tells him, "You're gonna tell me how this heart works." And he's like, "Okay." So he's just okay with it. And she just wants to know how it works. But overall, Echo was a good episode. It was good to see Clark learn how humans react by reading their minds and stuff. It was just interesting what Jor-El was putting through his training. Alright. And for me, the next episode is no favorite of mine is Rollout. For me, this is one of the best in the series. This kind of is about Oliver's redemption. Yeah. Oliver pretty much it was up with him at a casino going to gamble. He meets this woman named Victoria, which we find out her name is really Roulette. But before I get into any spoilers, he talks to her eventually, and he's going to go hang out with someone. He passes out drunk. Oliver wakes up in a coffin. He's alive, of course. And he has his fellowship, and it says game on. He opens it up, and he saw he hear this other person in there, beeping on the coffin, and it says Alexander Luthor. So he tries to save Lex, and it's like, now you're trying to play the game, Mr. Queen. And throughout the episode, Oliver's kind of But Oliver's ever go outside, he's trying to get help. He finds out that he's in a game, this dangerous game where somebody can kill him. And as going through these tests, eventually he runs into Victoria again. She gets shot and killed. Oliver is arrested for it, but you find out that she's alive, that she was the one in charge of this game. Lois and Clark try to find out where he is, and Lois and Clark go into Oliver's office. And she sees the kid footage of Clark being there and of Oliver about killing himself. She's like, Clark, Oliver's going to kill himself. Can you do about it? And she's just mad at him. But anyway, she gets kidnapped during the game. And Oliver, who has a gun now, when he's able to fight the cops off and shoot some of them, he's like, well, why are you doing this, Victoria? Why are you doing this to me? And he's close to... Sorry. I need to turn my light on, but he's about to shoot her. And he says, like, it's Lois. And then eventually, like, a fire happens. Let me turn this on real quick. Yeah. Is that okay? But Clark is able to come back. Well, anyway, she gets her leg trapped, saying, Oliver, help me, Oliver, help me. And he's like, I'm gonna get you out of here. And he basically tries to save her. She like rolls out over the ledge. He's like, see, Oliver, all I did, you helped me. I was like, Oliver, this was all a game. This was not real. I was just, messing with you the whole time. She was, Oliver, you're still Green Arrow. You're still that hero underneath. You just gotta look inside yourself. And pretty much, Oliver goes to Chloe about it. And he found out Chloe was the one that hired Roulette to put Oliver through this. He's like, well, Oliver, you needed your hero. You needed a push. You were in a deep, dark hole, and you just needed help getting out of it. So sometimes you need to push it. Like Clark and Emily, why didn't you tell Clark? Well, she said, Clark and Emily years would never agree with it. He rather you do it yourself, but I wanted to help you. And at the end, you see him back in the Green Arrow suit, and him meeting with Clark in the lawyer suit. And him and Clark say, well, we gotta get ready now for what we have to do. And Clark also in this episode finds out there are other Kryptonians on Earth. They find out there are plenty of them that had fallen on the Earth after the orb opened up. So, really good episode in my opinion. It was just good to see Oliver get his redemption. Excuse me. Another favorite of mine is episode called Crossfire. This is where Clark and Lois kind of like Reese's and Kelly. They're there to host a new show. They mess up their lines and they talk, and you see Lois and Clark kind of bickering. And this lady begins to realize that they have chemistry. She's like, we won't bother you for this show. Excuse me. In this episode, they kind of grow closer. You also have a prostitute who's a cage fighter named Mia. Maybe that's Speedy in the comics. I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, she's Green Arrow's psychic, but I guess you could say Mia, who's a prostitute, and her pimp or whatever, are the one that abused her, and Oliver, picks her up. Now to sleep with her. That's a job we call. He says, I can teach you. I can get you out of this life, I can help you, when he kind of trains her and stuff. But during this episode of Crossfire, Lois and Clark's relationship starts to heat up a bit more as Clark goes on a date, Lois gets jealous. And when Lois goes on her date, Clark is like, looking at Lois like, if this was a problem, you'd be crowned queen. And they have little flirtations with each other, like, is there another date Clark you're offering me on? And, and Oliver shows up because he wants to somewhat date Lois again, but Lois, pulls him off the camera and says, look, I like Clark, we never worked out with this all. He's like Clark, and he's upset. He's like, well, Clark's a lucky guy. But they do remain good friends, though. Oliver and Lois were in a relationship in season 6, but now she just tells him that it's over and that she's in love with Clark. Basically, that's the man that she wants to be with, Yeah. But you find out that Zod, who has also been talking to Tess, by the way, comes to her meeting or whatever, when they're talking about building this building, which this is the building in the future that will have the Red Sun and give them their powers. So they want to build this building. So Zod is kind of like in business with her. Pretending to be human a little bit, kind of like a businessman. Zod is pretending to be. Yeah, he is a little flirtatious with Tess, asking her for help. And he wants to find out about the porter too, and Zod has one of his men in the cover as their security guard. He tells Tess, he tells his man, he's like, tell her where the blower, maybe tell you where the blower is, who the blower is, or kill her. And the guy, before he can do it though, you see Zod drinking coffee. It's kind of his coffee shop, and he gets this package sent to him, and it's Kryptonian tag that's got blood on it, and Tess is like looking him across the street doing this, like, don't mess with me. And he figures I shouldn't have messed with her, and she kind of impresses Zod. Mia, by the way, betrays her pimp to Ricky. Ricky beats her, she tries to help Lois, but her pimp starts beating her, until eventually Clark, before Ricky is able to, use his machine gun to kill Oliver and Lois, Clark shows up as a lure. He uses heat vision, he catches a bullet before it hits Oliver. That kind of reminded me of Superman Returns a little bit. Well, it didn't hit his eye, but when he catches the bullet, which is a pretty cool scene. And the guy's arrested. And Mia gets a second chance eventually. She does become Oliver's sidekick. But overall, Crossfire was really good in my opinion. It was just good to see Lois and Clark's relationship build up. And no, like people were saying on Facebook that I read last year a little bit, people were saying, oh, she's Clark's second choice. I'm like, no, she was the right choice. Well, people, if you remember Lois and Clark, the new Vicious Superman, Lois is always laying as basically Superman's love interest. So, I haven't read the comics, but I'm sure she is. So, from the media I've seen, Lois has always been, the right woman for Superman. So, and this show definitely proves that. But anyway, another favorite of mine is episode called Candor. This is where we see an actor named Julian Sands who plays Jarrell. As I recall, 20 years ago, what happened, we see a little bit of Krypton a bit, of a war that happened on Krypton. You see Jarrell. Yes, Clark's father is in this episode, biological father Jarrell. And Jarrell shows up on Earth because he's one of the Kryptonians that landed from the orb, because that's what I forgot to mention. Jarrell created this orb and put his DNA in it and Zod's and all those other Kryptonians so they can transport it to another planet, which is now Earth. Jarrell comes to Earth, he meets Chloe. He hides, which you call the Book of Rel, which is like a crystal. He hides it in the camp form where it would be safe. Doesn't tell Chloe that, but Tess is able to help out Zod to find Jarrell. They find Jarrell, they beat him up a little bit, and Jarrell kind of just uses this move or something to her neck, just to keep Chloe safe. They take him to Zod, beats him up a little bit, saying, how are we going to get our powers? I'm never going to tell you. And, Clark is happy, though, because he thinks he's going to meet Jarrell. And he sees Jarrell with the council a little bit. They want to charge him with treason, and so Zod's able to get him out. He's like, remember my friend? And he found out that Zod and Jarrell were best friends, so they became foes, basically. And it wasn't Zod that killed Jarrell, because Zod states that he would never do that. I forgot to mention, never mind. I forgot to mention anything, I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, anyway, Clark finds out that Tess kind of helped them out, find Jarrell, and Clark is mad and nearly chokes her to death. And now she's like, Clark, I know your secret now. And he does find the truth and goes speeding away. By the time that he finds Jarrell, though, Jarrell's, he's like, save us all, and he's like, I love you, Kal-El. And then he dies in his arms and he buries his father. He uses heat vision to kind of put the S over it of what Jarrell gave him, which was hope, which is what the S stands for on the shield, And he says Zod was responsible for that destruction of Krypton. Zod does discover that the blur is, of course, Jarrell's son. And of course Jarrell was that he saved him, but overall, really good episode in my opinion. I really enjoyed Candor. It was good to see Jarrell and Zod, and it was finally good to see an actor who actually played Jarrell. He even mentions though in season 3 episode where Jarrell went to when he was in the 60s on Earth, they came to visit it just in case he knew Krypton was headed for destruction, that he wanted them to be raised by the Kents, because Iron Kent, who was Jonathan Kent's father, so he chose the Kent family because the Kents were good people that have good morals and that could teach Clark. We have Kal-El Now to be a good person, basically, how to be a good hero out of him. So, overall, good episode in my opinion. Alright, and another favorite episode of mine is called Pandora. This is where Tess kidnaps Lois. So we find out those 3 weeks when Lois had the Legion ring, and we found out where she went. She pretty much went to the future of Metropolis, where first we see her that she's under the red sun and meeting Moon, and of course Zod and his men have their powers. They keep people in Clark Kent's farm basically as prisoners. Clark is there as a prisoner himself. Clark does not have his powers. She's like, how did this become Clark? He's like, well, she vanished for a year. She's like, what happened? Well, this tower, he tells her that the tower went up, that the red sun went up, and that Zod and his men have been taking over. So Zod's been killing some of the humans, basically keeping them like slaves, basically rebuilding his version of Krypton and keeping humans as slaves. They're going to kill Clark and Lois, but eventually Chloe shows up. Her and Oliver, they have kryptonite weapons. Tess, you find out that she in this future works with them. Because Tess goes in this future too. She has this guy named Stuart Campbell working with her, who's a tech whiz like Chloe. And, Tess bows down before Zod, kneels before him. But eventually she gets killed by Chloe, and Oliver's upset by it. It's like, well, she had to. She betrayed us. Again, Tess joined them. She joins up because she thinks that she's saving humanity, basically saving Earth, but she's not. She's just helped destroying it, But sorry. Eventually, Clark and Lois ever talk a little more. Eventually, they do make love in this future. They do come up with a plan to stop to use the tower. Chloe dies in the process. Oliver, I think, does too, maybe. I don't remember. But all I know is that we get the red sun down, and the yellow sun comes up, gives Clark his powers back, and he's able to take out Zod eventually. Because Zod isn't prepared even to almost kill Clark. Well, Clark is able to try to save Lois from the machines because Stewart gets shot because he refuses to do what Tess says. So Tess shoots him, doesn't kill him. He just ends up in the hospital. At the end of the episode, Clark decides to do his father's wishes so that this doesn't happen. So he decides to see if he can help Zod and his people just have a life here on Earth, And at the end, Clark reveals himself. He's like, I'm Killer. Some of Krypton's like, and they kind of kneel before him. Zod is screwed up, and where him and Zod could probably be brothers, basically, be friends themselves. At the end, though, Lois and Clark eventually decide to start dating. They're now pretty much boyfriend and girlfriend at the end of the episode. So, Pandora is really good, in my opinion. It was cool to see a future where, Zod could take over the world and he could rebuild Krypton, just kind of like he was planning to do in Superman 2 and Man of Steel. Okay, but another favorite of mine is called Disciple. This is the episode starts off with Lois and Clark getting a date where her and Clark share a kiss, and afterwards you have an archer who shoots an arrow at them, and then Lois looks up thinking it's Oliver because she knows he's a green arrow. Is like, jealous much, Oliver? And pretty much it's Oliver's arch nemesis or whatever, named Dark Archer, puts an arrow and doesn't kill her, just sends a message to him, and pretty much Oliver is tested by this. Mia tries to do this test like a ninja, and he kind of chokes her. She's like, Oliver, stop. And he tells her to go away. He's like, kid, just piss off. I don't need your help. And he tells her basically just to piss off. But for her own good, this Dark Archer, you find out, is he almost attacks Chloe, prepared to kill Chloe until I think Clark shows up, so he just, he's able to use an arrow gun and able to escape. he kidnaps Mia, takes her to a cornfield, this landfill or whatever you want to call it. Zod, talks to Clark at the episode, telling him that, we're waiting to get our powers. We need them. Clark's like, I don't know how to give you those powers. He's got to get on Clark about it. Like, well, we need our powers. We're going to do whatever it takes to get them. And Clark's telling him, I don't know how to get your powers, but I can still help you find a life here, Oliver's apprentice, though, is kidnapped by the Dark Archer, and he tries to, Clark him and Oliver, who shows up at Screen Arrow, they have a bit of a fight, of shooting arrows at each other, until eventually Clark is able to come before Dark Archer can shoot all these arrows and kill Oliver and Mia. Clark shows up, able to do this, uses powers to super strength, and Oliver uses his arrow and kills him, basically, And that was the episode. He apologizes to me. Pretty much Lois in the hospital. Zod goes to visit her, talk about Clark. When Clark finds this out, Clark tells him, goes to Zod, and Zod tells Zod, Lois Lane is all building. Stay away from her, you all will regret it. I will destroy you all if you do it. Lois Lane is off limits. Don't mess with her. But overall, this episode was a good episode. It was good to see Dark Archer in here as well, and see a bit Lois passive that he probably trained with a guy, and the guy turned on him or something like that. But it was cool. Well, if we didn't need to know, I'm like, it's fine if I didn't need to know. Then another third episode of mine, and one of the best in the series in my opinion, is called Absolute Justice. Pretty much the episode ends with Chloe pretty much meeting Sylvester Pemberton, who is, of course, the Star Spangled Kid. He was a staff that controls light. He tells Chloe that as a friend and that there's a war coming probably, that, there's a band of heroes out here that need to help each other out, until Icicle shows up and the Star Spangled Kid grabs Chloe, puts her in a dumpster, and she's like, kind of into violent, kind of like she's, at a Universal Studios or in the dark or something. But she finds him dead, and pretty much with the other crew finding this out, including Courtney Whitmore, who is aka Stargirl. Green Arrow and them decide to follow them. Hawkman and Dr. Fate decide to find this out. Oliver follows Stargirl until Hawkman grabs him, goes to the watchtower window, like, stay out of our business. He's that dark voice. Clark tries to go to them and talk, but Hawkman, Carter Hall does not want to talk to him. Doesn't want to have nothing to do with that in the media. Tells him to stay away. And Chloe and Clark learned that these guys were heroes back in the day. Another one of the heroes, I forget. I think it was Ted Grant, I'm not sure. But these heroes in history, Carter Hall, Kent Nelson, Jay Garrick, I think who was the voice, Alan Scott, Ted Grant, Abigail Hunkle, Wesley Dodds, I think Dot Man or something, who he was the next person about to get killed. You see them in documented footage. Some of them are actually murdered, killed. They pretty much Icicle, who you find out is working for Amanda Waller, is pretty much sent to kill them. And he's the son of, I guess you could say, Icicle Jr. He decides to get revenge. But after Hawkman comes down, Clark eventually confronts Hawkman. Oliver's like, shoots an arrow at his picture and is like, I'm gonna knock you out. I was like, as he try, he grabs Oliver, is about to knock Oliver out, about to almost kill Oliver. So Oliver puts his green arrow gun right in his face. And then they decide that, Martian Manhunter shows up and says, we all got to team up, and they tell them that they're just Society of America. Courtney, who was Sylvester's protege, they team up and decide that they need to take on Icicle and find out who's behind trying to murder them, basically. So they team up. Hawkman and Green Arrow team up, and they, of course, don't like each other. Dr. Fate and Clark team up, and Oliver, I like this scene, though, because Dr. Fate is telling him about his future. So he's like, you will embrace this generation to give them hope, to be brand new heroes. You will leave which is the Justice League that, of course, Superman leads the Justice League. You will lead them into a new future. And even though Lex Luthor, who will be a hard enemy for you to fight, you will eventually triumph over him. But Clark says, Lex, but Lex is dead. I was like, I guess doesn't tell Clark anymore. Lois shows up. Clark is able to hide, though. And Dr. Fate tells her, Lois, Lane, the Traveler, the boy, he will need you in his quest one day. He will need you to be there for him. You're the one to help him to be the hero that he's meant to be. And he uses his powers to close the door on her. And at the beginning of season 8, Martian Manhunter doesn't have his powers. John Jones doesn't have his powers. Until eventually Dr. Fate gets killed, but in the process gives John Jones his powers back. And he does enjoy his powers a bit, though. They're able to fight Icicle, who you also have this checkmate, like I said, run by Amanda Waller, who she believes that a threat is coming, and she just kind of needed Icicle for some reason. Icicle, uses Dr. Fate helmet, but pretty much Clark, Hawkman, and Green Arrow take him, and Martian Manhunter, who he can't shoot him because when you shoot Martian Manhunter, he can just phase. But pretty much they will take Icicle down, and Amanda Waller says that she doesn't really need him anymore, so she pretty much puts a bullet in Icicle and says, "Welcome to the Suicide Squad," she was actually played by Pam Grier, I believe, played Jackie Brown, I think, in the movie. But Pam Grier, a really good actress. She did a good job in here. And at the end, when they decided that, anytime Justice Society America, they would team up any more features they need, which was a cool episode to see them team up. And it was cool that they had Justice League Society of America, because I, watch Star Wars and stuff, and I'm into that, so, so I'm definitely, all for it. You find out that Tess Mercer, of course, that she is an agent of Checkmate. Yes. You find out at the end of the episode after she kills Icicle. But overall, absolutely Justice was awesome. I like how they brought the Justice Society of America. I don't think you really need Checkmate, but that's just my opinion. Yeah, but for me, it's definitely one of the best episodes of Smallville. Pam Grier did a great job as Amanda Waller. I just don't think you really needed Suicide Squad and Checkmate here. I could have done without that. That's just me. I get it, they're trying to add it to the story, but sometimes you just don't need that. Just have a character that's out of revenge. Even though Icicle in this episode, I will admit, the actor I thought was weak in my opinion. I think that the star who plays Icicle does a better job. That's just my opinion. Another favorite of mine is called Persuasion. Clark is pretty much, I think it's called Gemini Kryptonite or something, where it doesn't really affect him. Well, it can in a way, but he tells Lois, it's like Valentine's Day kind of episode, because Lois should be more committed to me. And Lois quits her job at a daily planet, kind of becomes like a house mom or a house sitter. She's got like this weird blue dress on. She's making lunch for Clark, and it's not very good. Clark even tries to give lunch, some of the food, to Shelby. Even the dog Shelby doesn't want to eat it because it's so awful. And he tells Chloe, "I wish you would have my bag a bit more." And Chloe goes to Lois and tells him, "I've seen Clark alone before, and it hurt him this time." It's like, Lois, you just need to leave him. She's like, "No," and this upsets her. And she's crying, her eyes are blacked out because she's crying. And he's telling her, no, I love you, Lois, I like you, I want us to stay together, live together, be in a relationship. eventually she thinks that Clark is going to marry her, so she puts on Martha Kent's old wedding dress, and she calls Martha, and she calls her sister Lucy and her father General Sam. General Sam telling her that she's getting married. You know, the school music on. Lois in the house just, rocking it out in the dress because she's happy to be married to Clark. Every dance is just so funny as his character. Funny, a wise ass and sexy. Yeah, that's what I liked about her character. I'm sorry, but I think Lois is a better character than Lana. I like Lana. Lana's good for too, but Lois to me is just, a funny character. Always a wisecrack, It's funny seeing her dance and stuff. Clark tells him, how much to relax, and I thought it was funny when, because what show was about to blow up when Clark's like, you need to relax. And Mel just relaxes, and he just unlooses the ties like this. You know what? If this place blows up, not my problem. Just having a cold one, just flipping it off. It's like Clark is like, you don't need to act like this, somebody else ain't you. I thought that was a funny scene. When Zod has his new power, he goes to Zod, he went to reveal who it is. Zod tells Clark that Tess murdered his father and tries to convince Clark to see visions in Clark. He says to get revenge. Tess was doing something, I forget. No, she wasn't arguing with Oliver, but I think she comes in the watchtower or something. She has a fight with Clark. I mean, not with Clark, but with Chloe. Chloe's up to something. Her and Chloe, have a spatter because she wants to protect Clark, so Chloe thinks in her mind that Tess is after her, so she points a gun at Tess, and her and Tess fight a bit until Clark shows up to get revenge and basically just throws her to the side of the building here and uses heat vision to Crossfire and is going to kill her almost, and Tess is like, Clark, I didn't do this, I didn't kill your father. Chloe's already used green kryptonite to hypnotize Clark out of it. And Ella, who was the woman in the beginning, who is alive basically, she reveals that she killed Jarrell. It's the kryptonian law, pretty much. Zod kills Ella for her actions. He doesn't want to really do it, but when Ella tells, Major Zod, I killed Jarrell. I was like, what? So because Zod has to get a gun and pretty much just shoots Ella to death. Pretty much just puts a bullet in her, and you can tell he just did not want to do it, that Zod's upset by it. And then they have a funeral for her, and Chloe's like, I wonder how she ended up that way. He's like, so Zod, we killed her. Yeah, I killed her. He's like, why'd you kill her for? He's like, it's Kryptonian law kill. When someone in our system breaks the law like that and murders, we kill them. It's justice. So we're just like, that's how justice is done. And Clark is just pissed off about it, and as they're about to go tell Clark, since they're about to go tell that would build the Red Sun, give the power to Clark, basically out of anger, it says, they don't have any powers, uses heat vision and destroys the tower, and Zod is just disappointed by that and not very happy about it, but Clark did it for a good reason, can't really blame him, because he did murder, so he, shoot a girl, but, overall, Persuasion was a good episode in my opinion. So sorry. Okay, 3:38. Okay, I'm doing good all the time, I guess. Another favorite episode of mine is called Escape. This is where Clark and Lois head to a bed and breakfast for a weekend. You have Mr. and Mrs. Green there, who was actually Chloe and Oliver. I put that by the way because Oliver kind of taught her how to use taught her how to shoot an arrow, and they pretty much get into a relationship after this. And Lois and Clark are trying to, of course, maybe sleep together eventually. Oliver. It makes this really hard when they have breakfast where Oliver and Clark barely talk, and Lois wants to talk to Chloe. They tell her, we can do what they. Like, well, this is just an awkward situation. And so you have a woman named Super Banshee who Lois released by accident, and she basically, Silver Banshee becomes this one woman. She kills a man, basically turns him into a skeleton, and she eventually, Chloe goes, wants to go traveling at night, runs into this woman grabs her. Silver Banshee's able to possess her spirit into it, and persuade, basically she wants to, Silver Banshee's idea is to possess a woman's body, seduce a man, and kill him. Basically, I think she has like a hatred of men and wants to kill men. So as Chloe, she comes in, I thought it was funny though, as Clark is in the shower, and he's singing about Lois. And he's like, Chloe, whoa! Don't see me naked. And she tries to do something, and Lois comes in, it's real sexy by the way, but she's like, Clark, how could you do that, try to save my cousin? And then she gets into touches Lois, and Lois, Brian is able to convince Silver Banshee as possessed by Lois, able to bring Oliver out there and tries to kill Oliver, till you really see her, what she looks like, Silver Banshee looks like. Clark tries to like, this isn't hard for you to kill anybody, and she is able to take out Clark. But I think with the help of the hotel owner who knows about Silver Banshee, they're able to use this curse book, they're able to read it and basically destroy her once and for all. But overall, I thought Escape was a pretty interesting. Tess also goes to find out that in the last episode, Zod got his powers. Pretty much, I'll get to later why, but he nearly attacks Tess until Tess uses Green Kryptonite on him, and eventually him and Zod and Tess do this. And there was a few seasons where, where they're kind of flirting with each other, and when Tess is like in the bathtub, they're kind of flirting with each other, so until there's flirtations there, and they usually do sleep together. Zod pretty much at the end of the episode calls Lois, pretend to be the Blur, even though the Blur is not there on the wall, asking her for help to find out information about Tess Mercer. So overall, good episode in my opinion. And it was funny and interesting. What was it called again? Escape? Okay. And then another favorite episode of mine is called Upgrade. Basically, Lois is, in one of Tess's emergencies, they're making Tess's laboratories or whatever, one of her labs. Lois is able to do it thanks to help from, Zod, who is posing as the Blur. And pretty much it is red kryptonite. We also get John Corbin back in this episode, who was asking Lois for help. Lois kind of gets knocked out, but Metallo saves her pretty much. Clark wakes up in the morning, going to the bed next to her. He's like, is she okay? And he's just kind of considered what she's been up to. Trying to find out by asking help from Chloe where she was, and they've been using red kryptonite, and Clark goes into this lab, and eventually he gets a break about red kryptonite. Clark goes to the watchtower where they will find out that, some spoilers here, that Oliver and Chloe have been basing green kryptonite around the world, just in case the Candorians, Kryptonians, whatever, get their powers and start attacking them. They use it against them as weapons. Clark in his Red K form, his Red K Clark, when he's in the Red K, he does become evil, basically, he becomes bad. But loses his inhibitions, his humanity, basically, which means he doesn't mind attacking somebody or even killing somebody or hurting somebody. He's like, you betrayed me, like that. And eventually he decides to team up with Zod. I like the moment though, where I said that was going to be a cool moment where Clark runs into Metallo as Red K Clark. He smiles and wasn't about to get to fight until Zod shows up using his heat vision for Patrol, which doesn't kill Metallo, by the way. Because he's a machine and it won't kill him. Alright, really let him cool see a fight, and then Clark questions him. They talk about teaming up, him helping to get his other powers, that they can maybe roll the planet finally for his friends betraying him, so Zod able to convince Red K Clark Clark under the influence of the red kryptonite ever convince him of that. Lois tries to run away with Metallo, just to help him out, just to help get John Corbin out. He tries to help the lady put her bag in until she puts like a little dollar on him or whatever that makes it go back to her. And Chloe and Tess talk about what they're going to do, how they're going to help for it. Lois shows up eventually to talk about, the boiler, I guess, or something, until Chloe knocks her out, chloroform. But anyway, Metallo shows up and they send John Corbin, since he can take them on because of his heart, because of his kryptonite heart here, can take them on. Yeah. So in the Force of Solitude, they decided to change things up a little bit. Clark is going to maybe try to help him take over the Earth. Well, Metallo was there, Zod and Clark, even though they can't really go near because of the kryptonite. Clark at first uses heat vision to land some rocks on Metallo, but it doesn't hurt him at all. They freeze Metallo, use their freeze breath, which I guess that's freeze breath, it's not super breath, which, by the way, writers, when is Clark have his freaking, I think that's the first time I see a freeze breath because they're like in Seattle or whatever, and Clark uses his freeze breath. I'm like, that's gotta be freeze breath. I'm like, you couldn't have an episode introducing his freeze breath. I'm like, really? But anyway, they use his freeze breath on Metallo. Metallo was able to get out, and he kicks Zod out of the way, and stabs Clark with a kryptonite. Doesn't kill him, just gets the red can of the system. I was like, well, Clark, I'm like, I hope you appreciate my help. Hopefully, we see you later. He's able to use a crystal to get out of there. At the end of the episode, though, Metallo tells Lois that he does like her, but she says, I'm already with someone, and he's the right guy for me. And he just, kind of just goes away from there. Zod, of course, vanishes. He grabs like this, kind of like this crystal bowl, not ball, a bowl or whatever. Tells him how they can get their powers, and he grabs out this kryptonite dagger and he cuts his hand and gives his people the blood, and now they got their powers. So, yeah. Overall, really good episode in my opinion. Alright, another favorite of mine is called Charade. Yeah. This is where Lois and Clark, Lois is like dressed up as a bunny, I'm not kidding. She's on this case to find out this mayor guy or district attorney who was caught doing something illegal, but he was apparently kicked out of jail. And this kid knows a secret, and the district DA tells him, you're not going anywhere, kid. You better tell me the secret. But Lois is about to punch Clark, they both get fired. Then you found out hours earlier that Lois and Clark find out they have a new desk. They have to go on this new assignment, or one of them will get the desk job or be fired. So Lois and Clark kind of turn against each other, just kind of test their relationship as well. Yeah, this DA was called Raymond Sachs, by the way. Lois tries to talk to Raymond Sachs, but he almost sends one of his men to go kill her. Till the blur shows up, she never sees the blur's face. And in an episode, he'll touch her like this. She'll touch his hand back. As you can see back in the picture here, where he's telling Lois to be careful. And eventually this guy gets a picture of the blur. Lois is able to show the phone to the guy's able to, I think, add a reconnection or whatever. Well, Lois actually kicks the guy's phone. When she says the bunny, they pretty much ruin it, and they pretty much lose their jobs. What puts the strain on the relationship, though, is checkmate agent Maxwell Lord, who can barely read people's minds, has got this system set up where they're trying to find the Blur's identity, until Clark is eventually, Blur shows up, and then eventually, destroy the machine and knock him out. And that's the moment where he touches Lois, and everything will be okay. More easily speaking, if he speaks, show his Clark. he goes away. Then Master Warren eventually comes up to the woman known as Red Queen. The Red Queen, they call. Stern later rehires Lois and Clark at the suggestion of Perry White, yes, who would actually be the editor-in-chief someday of the Daily Planet. Clark is the blur, not Zod. Clark, the real blur, calls and tells us, I can't put you in danger again. I cannot do that. You can die, Lois, and I can't put you in that danger again. I can't risk it. I'm sorry, Lois. But there's Lois' conversation. Lois upset by it. Maybe she has feelings for the war, even though she doesn't know that her boyfriend Clark are one and the same. Well, a good episode in my opinion. Another favorite of mine is called Sacrifice. This is where Tess comes in, I guess, to point down to again. They maybe fight again until they get captured into the watchtower, and she points the gun like, you let me go, and I was like, what does it matter if you shoot me, Tess? Because I'm the only one that can get us out of here. So they pretty much have to wait to get captured. Until, they're eventually able to escape by kind of like freezing the door, even though Tess tries to shoot it. I'm like, if you do that, the bullet's going to reach and shoot one of us, put a bullet on one of us. Tess has to, Tess from being an agent of Checkmate, they have like this thing on her with this chip or whatever that will kill her or whatever. Well, she pretty much has to kill her in the hospital, then hospital, of course. But she's able to get this in there. Before a second, she hesitates, but she does bring Tess back to life, And Tess is eventually walk away again. Meanwhile, Clark, who is trying to, then set them up with identities, trying to have Farrah and her sister, trying to give them new lives. Oliver tries to find some information in the Luther mansion, but Zod shows up, and Zod nearly, kind of just pushes him out of the way until Zod shoots him with a little arrow which has kryptonite in it, until eventually Zod's able to get out of the kryptonite and basically uses heat vision and just kind of puts like burns his chest a little bit. Doesn't fully kill him, just burns him. And Clark talks to Vera, which I think is maybe Zod's wife, I think. I'm not sure. Or General telling that he's passed for weeks, telling her that Zod is up to no good. When they find out that Zod was the reason Krypton was destroyed, because of his actions, because of him betraying Jor-El, what he did, they assassinated humans. The Checkmate locates the Candorians, the Kryptonians try to fight against them until they use their powers eventually to fight them back. And Amanda Waller and her Stuart Campbell find out who is a Checkmate agent. He's got like a little bit of injured eye who wants to get revenge on Tess, but doesn't. But Zod shows up and basically burns the whole place down, uses his powers, and just kills everyone there. And Clark is like, oh my god, now he's just declaring war on the whole world, But Zod confronts her about her betrayal, and I do this for my reasons. And he tells her, kneel before Zod. She's like, never again. And Zod goes angry about this. You find out that Vera is also pregnant with Zod's child, but in anger, Zod gets angry, she doesn't kneel before him because of, you could say, his ego. she just chokes him. I mean, he chokes her and basically just murders her. And when he finds out that she has a baby in there, he killed her baby too. And at the end of the episode, Zod is able to kill his followers, and unfortunately Zod was able to convince them that it was the humans that did it, and Zod, now that he can extract his plan to take over, tells Clark, now we're going to destroy the Earth. We're going to destroy the humans. And Clark's like, I remember when all that happened. Clark can't take them all on, so they fly away. Now that, it was like, Zod ever uses against Clark, like, who do they think they'd really believe? You, Clark? No. And they start plans taking over Earth. Yeah. Alright, another favorite of mine is called Hostage. Yeah. What I like about this episode is also that Antonio Toole comes back as Martha Kent, and when Martha returns to Smallville, and Perry White, Michael McKean comes back. I like them, Clark saying how his mom, how's she doing? They talk about Jonathan a little bit, even, where Perry accidentally wears Jonathan's jacket. Perry and Lois I like their conversation here. That was cool because eventually they work at the planet one day together. They talk about a story that they want to do about the Candorians a little bit, about what they're up to. Meanwhile the Candorians are kind of using their heat vision around the world to saying that they're to take over the world, basically declaring war. Perry wants to ask Martha to marry him, but he doesn't think that she's ready. They're trying to, Lois and Clark decide before Martha shows up, just to break up for a while from the relationship, just to have a breakup. And until Lois basically was like, I can't lie to you, Mrs. Kent. And Charlotte was like, Clark, if you care about me, you just let me go. And Perry and Lois decide to go on this mission. They decide to go after the Red Queen, who might know information, because they want to find out who this woman is or who this person is, because they're just talking about her. Lois wants to find her goal in life. That's why she breaks up with Clark. It's about the book around Red Queen. Pretty much to help her get a job every day on the planet. But we get word in for Perry Lawson to return, and Clark is almost able to meet the Red Queen, to the Red Queen herself, which, spoiler alert, the Red Queen is actually Mark Kent. Basically, she's, the Book of Rail was stolen from the Kent farm until Martha, as the Red Queen, is able to get it from Tess. It's like, I'm just doing this for America, I'm doing this for the world, trying to say the world, like, all you care about is your damn self. She takes the Book of Rail, is like, don't turn around. And Clark, she'll stop the Red Queen, in Kryptonite, but eventually Clark is able to confront Martha in the morning. He's like, this time, maybe she used Kryptonite, but it's like, Mom, you're the Red Queen, aren't you? She's like, yes, I did it in order to protect you. That's why she did it. Her actions, Martha had good reason for what she did, just to protect Clark in general. And she gives him the Book of Rail. You also find in the Book of Rail that it was not only created in the DNA, but it was also created to a place called Candor, which is actually a place that the Kryptonians can live, and have their own world to live in if they can't live on Earth. It is basically there. The Book of Rail, it's not a book, it's not a Bible, it's just a crystal that can transform them there. Transfer them to this world. But build with a price that it will, once the Book of Rail goes, it will send the Kryptonians, expel them basically. Not expel them. Just including Clark. Yeah. But overall, Hostage is a really good episode. It was interesting. I do like the whole thing with Martha being a Red Queen. I thought that was good writing in my opinion. And this singing, Antonio Toole she's been off this show for a while, y'all. well, she pretty much quit the show, but it was good to see her back. She was on season 10 a little bit too, but, she hasn't been on the show since season 6. So, alright. And the last favorite episode, and last one, well, not last one for good, is the final episode of the season called Salvation. We're in the season where Zod says he feels like I said, the Kryptonians, the Candorians are using their heat vision and powers to claim that they're going to take over the world. And Vera's sister, who is angry at Clark and blames Zod, says to join up with Zod. And they decided, that they're going to take over the world. Zod appears as Lois, claiming to be the Blur. And accuses Clark and tries to blame Clark on, but she defends Clark. Clark has done many things, but he's not a bad guy. I'm just going to leave my light on. Tess does confront Zod and never save Clark. But Zod, she uses green kryptonite, but Zod is able to eventually get an upper hand. He's like, you know what? I burned when you opened that. I don't know what. When you opened the orb, Tess, it burned me a lot. Now you're gonna have to realize yourself what it's to get burned. And he uses heat vision, doesn't kill Tess, just burns her face basically, have her face burned off. She screams in pain, and she apologizes to Clark about it. And Clark does forgive her and says that he's gonna have to stop Zod now. Oh, we're getting a little dark in here. I'm gonna open up my window. Open up my blinds. I think that's better. Okay. Alright. What was I? Okay. I just do this just because I don't forget anything. And then when, Lois eventually is able to find out that Zod is not the Blur, because again, when he touched her right there, he touched Lois' shoulder, she's like, wait, you're not the Blur. What are you talking about? You're not him, you're lying. I don't trust you. And Zod's like, yep, you're absolutely right. And he just grabs Lois, almost kills her until Clark shows up as the Blur. She's like, it's really you, isn't it? And then he grabs Lois, say something, and he gives Lois a kiss, and Lois eventually, because again she's been dating Clark, after that kiss she's able to realize that, she's like, Clark? So she realized that Clark is the Blur. Eventually, before they can do any more teaming up, for they can take over there, Clark is able to have proof that Zod did kill, well, pretty much. And Clark kind of, he grabs Clark until eventually Vera's sister is able to use her super hearing, and through her super hearing, she's able to hear that, yes, he did kill Vara. He did kill Fiora, that he murdered her. That he murdered his sister, so the Candorians decided, for what Zod did, get mad at Zod, and before she didn't kill him, was like, no, we'll punish him another way, and they decided to use the Book of Ra, and the Kryptonians, Clark opens it up, they go, and this is where Clark and Zod have their fight, when he pulls out a blue kryptonite dagger, and him and Clark just have a bit of a fight a bit. Again, blue kryptonite doesn't weaken them, won't kill them, but blue kryptonite can kill them. They stab them with it, which Zod does, but they have a fight with it, with the dagger. The blue kryptonite, what it does, it just takes their powers away. They just become normal. So, yeah, and I think they get into a cool fight, and Zod is speaking to the saying, he's like, after I get my powers back, Kello, after I kill you, I'm going to kill Lois, I'm going to kill all the humans on Earth, and I'm going to take over this planet. So, but during their fight, Zod does stab Clark and smiles about it, but eventually the blue kryptonite, since Clark takes it with him, kind of like grabs it or whatever, and he's falling. Zod then, Clark intentionally stabs himself with it, Zod's like, no, Zod just kind of goes flying up there as it transports him up to the space to the Book of Realm, which, by the way, he does not, end up going to Candoria. I think the Candorians, Kryptonians, basically what they do with Zod is, for the crimes he committed, they send him to the Phantom Zone. Like I said, in Superman's world, the Phantom Zone is a prison if you commit crimes, if you're a criminal, basically. That's where they send him. We won't see Zod again, I think, till season 10. But then at the end of the season, you have Clark falling down, and then the season ends there. So, good season final, in my opinion. Good final fight. Well, at least I will say this, at least he really did get a fight with Zod. It didn't last long, but it was a good fight. And I'm like, really, finally? Like the other villains I mentioned, like, Bizarro, Doomsday, and Brainiac, which I think he had a good fight with. I'm like, finally. No, I'm not done yet, guys. I'm going to give my okay episodes now. It's a few of them. If this video ends up being 2 hours, I'm sorry. First episode, my okay episodes. These are my okay episodes. So let's start with that. First one is Rapid. Kind of shows up at the beginning where this is a zombie episode, which I thought was just weird. Smallville going with witches, now we got zombies, and I'm like, okay. And then a girl who's possessing people, I'm like, okay, a lot of witchcraft in here. I'm like, which to me, you don't really need to add horror elements in Smallville. They do. And my brothers, what do you think? This is a superhero show, not a supernatural horror show. But you find out that Zod and his crew released this virus, and it turns people into zombies. Test is even turned to one. These zombies attack people. When they get bit, you become a zombie pretty much. And Clark, Clark always fights zombies. Lois gets bitten. Oliver shows up to help out. I thought it was pretty cool when he had a shotgun. And he's supposed to watch Lois while Lois falls asleep, and she really turns into a zombie. First, she can really attack him. She gets out, and Clark is able to grab her though at a time, and they're able to use this as an airborne. And Zod talks to one of his men, who was one of the doctors or whatever. When he realizes Kryptonian, that the yellow sun might give him powers for himself. Oliver burns his green arrow outfit. But also, Zod, when he realized that his men screwed up, with the Rapid when they were trying to get the powers back, Zod has a sword and basically just murders the guy right there. But overall, it was just an okay episode in my opinion. Like I said, Smallville kind of just blatantly just gets weird for no reason. And I don't know what the writers were thinking at the time. I'm like, are you trying to make this into a horror show? Idol. Another okay episode in my opinion is called Idol. You have these two twins, Jane and Zane, who are basically fighting criminals. They're okay characters. One she's kind of like Beast Boy. She can turn to animals. You find out that I do like this episode where Lois kind of, defends the lawyer and Clark is like proud of her for it. And Clark has to stop these two, and Clark is out watching them. You find out that District Attorney Ray Sachs challenges the boy to reveal himself. Lois enters Clark's work. She tries to get him to admit his identity. When Sachs is on to Lois, or whenever he pretty much is on top of the Daily Planet, has his men try to kill her until Clark shows up. Eventually, she gets saved somehow by the lawyer. And of course, Clark is still up there, so I guess somebody else has saved her. They get help from the twins though, and Lois says it was Chloe's not the Chloe and that she was wrong. Well, it was cool. Clark told these two kids, Jane and Zane, that they helped him out with his mission. Just be careful how you do it. That was cool, you know. Kind of having Superman to tell you you're doing an awesome job. Yeah, that'd be awesome, wouldn't it? But overall, I thought it was just okay. Alright, another okay episode. Just 3 more, guys. It's called Warrior. This episode kind of reminded me of Shazam a little bit. We have this kid named Alec Abrams who steals this comic book and it turns into the Warrior, the superhero, this warrior angel who Lex Luthor was a fan of, used to be a fan of. And becoming this superhero, Chloe invites him to her place. You know, he doesn't like drinking coffee. When he asks this guy, he's like, "You have a glass of milk?" "Okay, coffee's fine." Black coffee. You know, Chloe has to learn to have fun because she doesn't really have much fun anymore. It's like, Chloe, you want to have fun. You know, so they bounce around, dance around a little bit. And eventually, though, the kid, when they start doubting him or whatever, he becomes like a villain. And, you know, in this episode, you have Lois dressed up as Wonder Woman, which is she looks really sexy, and I'm like, wait, and when she comes out of the bathroom just as Wonder Woman, all the guys that are waiting for her to get out of the bathroom even before, they're all looking at her. So Tana, she, you know, tries to flirt with Clark a bit. She's able to use her magic to get a kiss from Clark. And this makes Lois jealous. Lois like grabs one of the coffee employees or whatever. One of the employees grabs a guy and kisses him just to make Clark jealous. But overall, you know, Warrior and the kid at the end, you know, before he becomes a villain, Clark is able to save him in time. But overall, it was just an okay episode. Yeah, you know, it's kind of film that kind of reminded me of Shazam a little bit. Then another okay episode, in my opinion, was called Conspiracy. This doctor who was in chillism he kidnaps for his sister. He does experiments with them and like murders them. Zod is trying to find out about this. Him and Clark are just not getting along because Euphoria is giving us power, so they have their dispute. And even wants to blame Clark on destroying those towers. But, you know, him and Zod just are not getting along. Zod, you know, Lois, eventually this guy comes to her, Chisholm comes to her, he's trying to tell her that aliens are among us on it, and she laughs about it, she's like, there's no proof. And the guy eventually kidnaps her, forcing her to write a story about it. Zod shows up to save her, but this guy kills Zod, this guy, Zod, who doesn't have his powers, by the way, Chisholm like shoots Zod right here in the stomach. Clark is able to show up eventually and able to stop the guy. Well, yeah, he's electrocuted by accident, you know. He's just like he's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something like that. And Clark is able to use his blood to save Zod, and that gives Zod his powers because Zod pretends to make a pact like him and Clark, you know, kind of like shake his chin, so it's like this, like they're kind of like brothers. And thanks to Clark's blood, Zod just goes up in a ledge and just jumps off, and you see him flying at the end. You just have Zod smiling, and he's flying, and he has powers. But overall, it was just an okay episode in my opinion. Yeah, a serial killer alien, a guy who kills aliens, okay, alright. Just not one of my favorites. And then the last one here is, the okay episode is Checkmate. Tess and these other, well, Oliver as Green Arrow, decides to save this woman who he thinks is a danger, and of course it's Tess, but she didn't know that. And Checkmate decided to kidnap him because Amanda Waller wants him to be part of the Suicide Squad. They don't know that he's a villain or Oliver Queen, of course. You find out Martian Manhunter has something to do with this, and John Jones pretty much goes to Checkmate. He has his powers, of course, I think, at this time, I believe. he's able to read a man's mind and find out where it's at. And Clark, who shows up also because they have Chloe, kidnap Chloe, and they're going to kill her. You have this cool moment of these cool shots of Clark saving her. Now, Amanda Waller has seen the face, but, when John confronts Amanda Waller, she's able to use the weakness, which is fire. I believe that is Martian Manhunter's weakness against him. Uses weakness against him. He decides that he eventually, it's like this. Let's see. It's kryptonite blood, which he eventually gets. And even though she's seen all their faces, pretty much, seeing Clark's face as the Lord, but Martian Manhunter, who has the ability to read minds, but also make you forget things, uses his mind wipe on Amanda Waller and makes her forget. But of course, she says she's still going to hunt down the Lord and all that stuff, because she believes aliens are being a threat, so she wants to use this team as much as she can. And they talk about the vision of the future, but overall, Checkmate was okay. I like Pam Grier's Amanda Waller. It's cool about Amanda Waller, but I don't think you needed Checkmate in here. I just didn't find the whole thing with Checkmate that interesting. For me, that was the weaker part of the season. But anyway, y'all, that is my okay and favorite episode. My favorite and okay episodes of Smallville Season 9. So, let me conclude my thoughts on this season of Smallville Season 9. So, pretty much to sum it up, like I said, in my opinion, Smallville Season 9, I did enjoy this. For me, it's one of the best seasons of the show. It was cool to see Clark embrace his destiny. It was cool that they brought Zod and more Kryptonians in here and have Terrell in here. The Absolute Justice Ring, the Justice Society of America coming in. Clark and Oliver. Clark and Zod get into a fight. It was cool. It was to see Clark, finally wearing the S, finally, even though he's called the boy, he will become Superman, but in the next season. Which, is the last season of the show. He'll become Superman. It was cool to see Zod in here and stuff. And see Metallo and Absolute Justice and Oliver, kind of losing his confidence as a hero, even nearly wanting to kill himself, and just Oliver getting his redemption, and Oliver and Chloe hooking up. I thought that was a good idea. Oliver and Chloe have good chemistry. After the last episode's Salvation, they're like on a mission or whatever. Oliver gets captured, and he's about to say, Chloe, I love you, but didn't in time. But overall, the cast is really good. Lois and Clark, I'm glad it's finally seen them dating. It's good that she knows his identity now. And I think they had good chemistry. I think Lois and Clark, for me, in my opinion, I don't care what people say, oh, she's his second choice. No, not second choice. If you can tell with season 4, there's some chemistry between them. When they bake her, you can tell between Lois and Clark there's some feelings there between them two, that the two like each other. It just doesn't come out until later on in the seasons. Season 8 and Season 9 they start dating, so you can tell that there's some chemistry between them that has been building up over the years. Just watch Season 4, see it, When you begin to watch the season, you see that there's chemistry between them. Even though they bicker like brother and sister, you can tell that there's somewhat of a chemistry there between them. So, like I said, what I don't like about the season is Checkmate. I think you could have took that out. It wasn't interesting. Also, Callum Blue is for me, he's pretty weak. The actor, I saw him in a Christian movie or something like St. Paul or whatever, but overall, he was good in that movie. And he's a good actor, but Callum Blue, but he's my least favorite actor, plays Zod. I prefer Terrence Stamp or even Michael Shannon as Zod and Man of Steel. I think they're just better in my opinion. Michael Shannon to me is more intimidating as Zod. Yes, he might be over the top, but that's what the Zod should be. Callum Blue this doesn't sound threatening to me. And he was alright. And overall, for me, this is one of the best seasons of Smallville, up there with Season 1, Season 2, Season 5, Season 6, and Season 8. So, and this Season 9. Those are my top favorite episodes. Least favorite so far, even though I like them, would be Season 3, 4, and 7. So, right now. But overall, Smallville Season 9, really good in my opinion. I give a really good story. I like how Clark embraces his own heritage, and him and Lois finally dating. A lot of good things to add here, about Justice. Really good season of Smallville. very enjoyable in my opinion. And I gave it a thumbs up. And my rating for Smallville Season 9 is 4 out of 5 stars. So thumbs up and 4 out of 5 stars for Smallville Season 9. So guys, tell me in the comments down below, what are your thoughts? What are your favorite episodes of Smallville Season 9? And what do you think of the season? But what are your favorite episodes of Smallville Season 9? Tell me in the comments down below. Alright guys, hopefully next. Alright. Well, okay guys. Oh god. Oof. Sorry about that. Alright, well, we will be getting to the final season of Smallville. So next will be my thoughts. I do have a Picos video coming out, by the way, y'all. I bought some movies recently yesterday and some I bought on Amazon, which have not shown up yet. Yeah. So maybe this week I'll be able to finish Smallville season 10, maybe. But, of course, next will be the final season of Smallville, so next will be the final season. So we finally made it to the final season of Smallville, season 10. So, where Clark eventually becomes Superman. So, I'll show you more of a picture of that. Yeah. Of the suit and all that. But Smallville season 10, so this will be next. My thoughts on favorite episodes of Smallville season 10. And then after that, I'll be talking about Supergirl next. The CW show starring Melissa Benoist. Just no crossover episodes. You know, with other superheroes or the Flash. But anyway, we'll be finishing up with Smallville next with the Smallville season 10. So this will be next show, so look forward to that. And what are your favorite episodes of Smallville season 9? Once again, guys, tell me in the comments down below what are your favorite episodes of Smallville season 9. And my rank for this season is 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. Yeah, it's 4 out of 5 stars, I meant to say. But let me know your favorite episodes, and I hope you look forward to me talking about the last season of Smallville, season 10. So next will be the final season of Smallville coming up next. And thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye.